Dogan Akkas joins us now in the studio. She's an assistant professor in Middle East Studies at Ankara University. Betul, thank you so much for coming in. It's very early in the morning still in Istanbul. Why has the world been unable to stop Israel's violence?
That's a very important and tricky question that we actually tried to answer since the 7th of October last year. What I can say, the political forces, international organizations, the governments, the NGOs, the persons who are very active in politics all around the world, they actually try somehow very hard to do something tangible for Palestinian people, for people in Gaza, for anyone who is against that genocide. But there's this big influence of the counter forces who actually are not working or even like trying to function for a ceasefire or a peace process for the both sides in a short period of time. The understanding of a conflict or of a war in Palestine, it's somehow chronic now, and the suffering we watch on the TV, we witnessed since the 7th of October, it's like as if this is somehow, it's going to go for a long term, and the reason is not something that we actually can change by politics. I don't agree with that. If we have a functioning politics all around the world, including international organizations and like states who could actually somehow encourage Israel to change things or force anyone who is involved, we could see a tangible change. We have a biased politics. What we have seen in Ukraine, okay, we haven't seen a peace in Ukraine as well, but we have seen a better discourse, a potentially functioning discourse in other parts of the world. But when we come to the Middle East, we have seen this global narrative, which actually in somehow they are trying to function, which I see a better and encouraged discourse. But on the other side, what we see is more like this is chronic, and can we really change? They don't seem like acting in a way to bring a tangible solution, a solution to everyone. It's more like trying to not ignore, but like trying to normalize things going on. I think this is the unfortunate situation we face since the last year. More than before.
Benjamin Netanyahu says the International Court of Justice is anti-Semitic. He says the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees is anti-Semitic. It was a few years ago, the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan told the UN General Assembly, he held his hand up, he put 5, he said the world is bigger than 5, because the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, they could be accused of not conducting policies that are conducive to peace. And Recep Tayyip Erdogan now has the greatest champion for change in the current UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres. Is it the Americans who are stopping the Security Council who are stopping the Security Council for demanding Israel stop its violence?
It has many layers. Since the last year, we have seen both Middle Eastern states and states from Global South. They actually try to lobby with the states to function, like to have a better functioning UN for Palestine. And it is not a new story. As you know, the conflict we have seen in this region, it's a long-standing conflict, but not only for this, for any other problem in the world, where we will see these big powers working for the people who actually need urgent help. Not only for war. Okay, war is now in front of our eyes. We have seen a genocide since the last year. It's something we see. But let's say any other problem in any other part of the world, why we are always demanding a solution from those powers who actually does nothing but just talk about things that we cannot, they say we cannot change, we don't have this influence, we cannot do this institutionally. But then what to expect from United Nations? As you mentioned, every action or every narrative of Guterres is labeled as anti-Semitic by Israeli political elites. Is this really the case? Of course not. He's trying to bring something for Palestine, for Gaza. And this is actually very global now, anywhere in the world. When you mention about peace or a solution, there's always a critical eye on any politician. And I think we will have a spillover effect of it. Once any politician is trying to do something on that cause, they might have a domestic problem, if any other political group in their country is opposed to that, because we have far right increasing their influence in the West, but we have also somehow less orientation to regional problems in the other part of the world. We have China, Russia involved to Middle East problems, but they don't like bringing a completely different alternative narrative to Middle East conflict. So who else to solve this then if we cannot rely on international organizations? So this is very unfortunately problematic.
Maybe individual governments like the Turkish government, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, again just a couple of days ago, making a speech to the ruling party, the AK Party, speaking to them in Ankara, saying that, remember, we have taken economic measures against Israel, cutting all trade with the state of Israel, but so few have done that. Why not more? We have, what I see mostly, they are trying to have the role dependent on the international organizations or international law. So in other words, relying on other people to make decisions for them?
Yes. But at the same time, what we see is the functioning, as you mentioned, the functioning mechanism is actually oriented from the local narrative. So as you mentioned, Turkey has a specific stance on it. We have other Middle Eastern countries or global South countries. They do support Palestinian people. They also don't have trade with Israel. But this is a few. The problem here is we don't have a solid, unified international sanction on Israeli trade or any sort of functioning mechanism that might actually provide a certain challenge, so they might think of changing their policy making. This is a problem, but Turkey definitely, as you mentioned, Turkey is trying to bring a different narrative in many ways. They are trying to provide humanitarian aid, they are hosting the Palestinian people who need urgent health care, they are trying to internationalize the conflict with the war crimes, etc. But they also try to bring more regional voice. We have Egypt involved, Qatar involved, because if you don't have enough local source to make a change, you will be an external as a Western power or as a Turkey, as another country in the Middle East, but not part of that conflict. Then how you're going to make sure that this is actually a long-standing peace process? So Turkey is aware of the fact that we need a local agency. This is why actually Qatar, Egypt involved heavily, but we haven't seen any tangible outcome yet.
Betul Dogan Akkas, I know you're with us for many hours because it's going to be a day of special coverage throughout October the 7th. For the moment, thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.